Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we are talking with Megan Gibson. Megan is the creator of Free to Be You. She's a podcaster, a writer, a personal coach, mother, lifelong learner, and a pretty good cook. So let's hear about that. Welcome to the show, Megan.
Hey, thank you, Jill, for having me. As you can see from my accent, I'm in the future in Australia.
Yeah, she traveled back in time just to visit with us today. I'm so excited.
Happy to be here.
I love how they said time travel wasn't possible, but we do it all the time.
We
these
do.
days. So how did you get started in this? And what exactly do you do other than being a good cook?
Gosh, I feel like I should start at the beginning.
Okay.
Which is a long time ago.
Your mother brought you home from the hospital and you were the model child.
Oh my gosh, how did I get started? Like, the real answer to that question is I actually started out as a hairdresser. I think that's why everyone tells me I have good hair, but that's why. I've been a hairdresser for, almost 30 years ago now. But I found that my coaching, and I really believe that my coaching journey started as a hairdresser, because I don't know about you, but when we go to the hairdresser, we either the person in the chair that's sharing everything that's going on in our life, or we're overhearing the person next door sharing everything that's going in their life. So as the hairdresser, constantly hearing people's stories and the different things that are going on in their life. I started at 15, so I just gave my age away. Certainly grew up quickly in that environment because, I hadn't been through some of the things that people were telling me about. And I know that a lot of, if you're a hairdresser and you're watching this or listening to this, that you would agree that we are a bit of a counselor in the end. So I really became just fascinated with, obviously, women mainly, because that was mainly my clientele, but with people and their human behavior and just how people could get themselves into certain situations, but also how they would get themselves out of it or how they would come out of it. And one of the things that I found is that a lot of people tend to get in cycle. We have a lot of things that we go through until we learn it. And so what I found is that with my coaching now, I started 8 years ago, and I started in the personal brand space. And when I say personal brand, that could mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But basically what I mean by that is I was in a organization where we wanted to help people create a brand or put themselves out into the world, particularly online, where they were being true to themselves. So we didn't want to brand who they think they should be in the marketplace. It was more about, let's actually create a solid foundation of who you are, and then let's put all the pretty colors and logos and websites, and what people think branding is, on top of that. Right. So then you can show up as authentic, and you're going to enjoy your business, and you're going to attract people who like you instead of who you are being. And so that's kind of where my journey started. And my role in that organization in that process was to help people do a really deep discovery of what that is for them. And I loved it because it really did. It was a much deeper journey of listening to someone's story, right? Which was where I said I just started. I enjoyed that process a lot, and I've heard hundreds of people's stories over the years, and everyone's unique, even if they've had a similar experience. What I found, Jill, is that as I was going through getting feedback from people who'd done that work, most of the time they got more value or more transformation in their personal lives than they did in their business. Some people didn't even end up doing the business that they thought they were going to do because they uncovered that actually this is not even what I want. And so I got much more passionate about the self-actualization piece of that, the self-discovery that went along with that, and how that affected, in particular, people's relationships. Now, I also found around that time that I'd made that transition from working with business owners to working with individuals, that my life did a big 180. And it was around the time that I turned 40. And so I turned 40 and thought that I just looked up, my kids were older. They didn't need me like they did before. I'd been really busy up until that point. A lot of things that were happening had me in a sort of this state of survival, if you will, in terms of how I felt about things. And when I turned 40 and actually looked up from that, I felt like I should be more successful, more wealthy, more healthy, more in love with my husband at the time. And I was shooting all over myself. I should be this and I should be that. And then I really had to figure out, who am I now? Like, it wasn't a nice feeling. I had to eat my own cooking. I had to do that discovery work myself, because who am I to be? I'm not the kind of coach that can tell somebody they should be doing something and not be walking my own talk. And so that is one of the things that got me through that time. So my marriage is 28-year relationship that ended. My children grew up around that time. They grew up a lot quicker, as they do through that process, sadly. And so I had to rediscover myself in a whole new way, who I was without that part of my life. And this work got me through. So the work that I do, and doing it myself in a very, very intentional way, knowing myself at the deep level that I do and did at the time, was what helped me through. And so that is a very long answer to your question as to why and what I do, and why it's something very, very I'm very passionate about.
And it's something that so many women need when they're going through their 40s. It's just that transition point when you're not mommy anymore. You'll always be mom, but the neediness of being the center nucleus of this family, whether you have one kid or 5 or 10, it's a very distinct role that you play, and you become that person. And you play that role for your husband, you play that role for your friends, your communities that you're part of. And then your kids grow up, and they may not be moving away, but they're starting to move away from you. They have their own things that they're doing. And it's really a time when you're just like, who am I? You forget who you were. And it's so helpful to have somebody come along and say, hey, who are you? let's take a look at that.
Answer that question.
Yeah. You have a quiz that helps people with that. And I did take the quiz. And I want you to talk to people about how you developed the quiz. And then I'll tell you what I got.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what you got. So there's a lot in what you just said, if I can just backtrack just for a second. Yeah. So yes, it's common for people to feel that way. And one of the things that I find is that you either go on that journey of rediscovery, or you stay being who you think you are, and you end up 10, 20, in your 60s, 10, 20 years down the track, just unfulfilled. And that is not what I want. So I really want to help people at that transition point to understand that this is not an ending, this is a beginning. And you're not who you were before you had children anymore. You're not that version that you were in your 20s. You're not even the version you were in your 30s. But let's dust off some of the dreams that you put aside, because some of them may still be things that you want. If they're not, let's forget about them and let's discover what is going to be your life moving forward. Because we need somebody sometimes, or more often than not, to navigate that process, because we've been stuck in autopilot for so long and we end up being the passenger in our lives instead of the driver. And so I'm all about helping people get out of autopilot, back into the driver's seat, and I get in the passenger seat and we go on that journey together so that you actually end up at a destination that makes you feel lit up and fulfilled and self-expressed. And so, yeah, I think that it is common, and a lot of people that I've worked with resonate with that analogy, you know. And so one of the things that holds us back leading to the quiz is when we decide, okay, I'm going to go on that journey, I'm going to do this internal work, which is you have to have the courage to do it first of all, because there's probably going to be some things that come up that we maybe haven't wanted to look at or even know that they're there to look at. So one of the things that tends to come up is all the negative self-talk, the limiting beliefs, the things that get in the way of us having that courage. And so it can be terrifying for some people. And I've heard some things that I wish really didn't go on in the world, but they do, and they need addressing. And so that little voice, that little inner voice that sits on our shoulder, that is there to keep us safe, to keep us small and stop us from doing anything scary, to keep us in our comfort zone, right? She can be quite mean. Yeah, most of the time. And the closer you get to taking the leap, the closer you get to putting yourself out there, the louder and meaner it is. And it's part of who we are, but it's not who we really are. It's that, like I said, it's that voice of, do you really want to do this? Are you really good enough to do this? What if people laugh at you? Those kind of not helpful thoughts. So what I have found helped me was I was working with a coach, and she helped me understand that voice is not going anywhere, and that voice is not me. And it was a little bit of a different approach that she took, which I do actually talk about in my upcoming book that I'm writing. I go into this in a lot of detail. We can talk about that later. But I found that for me, giving that voice a name and not disassociating from it, because that's not helpful, but just understanding that it's not my authentic self. It's a version of me that is there for that reason only, to keep me safe and stop me from ever feeling whatever I felt when that voice was created, which is generally something in our past, in our childhood, where we made up some story about ourselves based on something that happened. And we then believe that moving forward. This all happens subconsciously. It's not necessarily anything we're aware of at the time. And we grow up with this limiting self-talk in the background. So what the quiz is designed to do is to take you through a series of questions to uncover what that story is, because I've found that there's about 5 versions of the same thing. And there's probably many, many more versions of it. But if we narrowed it down to give sort of 5 different results, and each of those stories has a name, and she is your inner mean girl. So it's called the Freed from BS quiz, and BS stands for whatever you decide that stands for. I don't know if you want me to say that on your podcast, but I think we all know what that means. But it's to free yourself from that, right? So uncover what the lie is that you've been telling yourself for so long about yourself, because we're all amazing, we're all smart, we're all beautiful, we all have something unique to offer the world, and we want to uncover what that is. But we can't do that if we're telling ourselves that we're not that. So we are. So we need to go, okay, what's the lie? And then what I've found as a fun little addition is just to go, let's give her a name. And so when she gets loud, we can say, shut up. You could probably insert your mean girl there now, but you know what I mean? And then we go, okay, it's not really me. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the warning. Thank you for, keeping me safe, but I've got this. You could just sit there and be quiet because it's not going anywhere. You're never going to be rid of it, right?
Very accurate. Mine, you want me to reveal?
Yeah.
And now for the big reveal. Mine was Bianca. And Bianca is You're Not Enough. And I came across Marissa Peers, who she said, just write I am enough on all the mirrors in your house. And I did it. And you'd be amazed how effective just seeing that is at combating Bianca and her little chatter. And there is some inner work that you can do to get over that. I know exactly why I've grown this Bianca person in my life, and I've done a lot of the work that is required. But just knowing what that lie is kind of the first step to taking steps to actually make changes. And then having somebody like you as a coach who knows the steps to go through to help you peel back what was the root cause of this, and how can you reframe that, and how can you move forward and really decide what your truths and your values are. Yeah. And how you want to live your life.
Yeah. It's so powerful. I mean, it all comes back to, for me, it comes back to self-awareness. So the more awareness we have of the self, and we have many selves, as we just said. So you've got Bianca, she's one of your selves. And then you've got, the versions, all the versions that are outdated now. We need to update the system. It's like, well, I'm not all of those things, but those things are me. They are things or versions of me that have made me who I am today. Yeah. And so they're all valuable, and there's value to rescue from those selves, right? Mm-hmm. There's value there that we can rescue. And there's also a lot of things that no longer serve us that we can let go of. And I call that kind of a bit of a declutter. It's like, well, this doesn't serve me anymore to believe that about myself. It doesn't serve me anymore to go after that anymore, because it doesn't light me up. It doesn't light this version of me up. And there's going to be another version and another, we're going to keep changing, evolving. We're never done. So what I love about what we're talking about and what I do is people need to understand then, okay, so if I'm going to continually grow and evolve, and then how do I keep aligning, realigning? And that's a big part, I think, of where I am different maybe from some of the other coaches in my space, is that I want people to, it's like that self-awareness and the values and the things that you uncover about yourself become your compass. So if you have a compass, that's fine. But if you don't know how to use that, then it's just another tool to sit on the desk and collect dust. Well, no, it's like, now that you have that compass, now you need to learn how to align. And it's a constant shift. You're constantly adjusting based on what's happening, based on any chaos, as I call it, that comes in to your life that you're not expecting. If you know how to navigate through that, then you're going to be fine. And you can rely on your gut, and you can rely on yourself. And I think that there's a lot of need for that, because we live in this world where people are constantly seeing things that they think they should be. We have so much more being fed to us through social media and the internet, and now AI, and like, what's real anymore? Well, we need to know who we are, and that's how we can figure out what's real for us. So it's really about looking in and then looking out, instead of looking out and deciding what you should be,
Yeah. I saw a meme this morning. This kind of goes along with what you're saying. It was an Eckhart Tolle meme. It was to the effect of, you do all this inner work and you think you finally arrived, but go spend 10 minutes with your family and you'll find out where you still need to work. When you were talking about the social media, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
true.
Constantly, you've got to be adjusting, and your analogy of moving the compass around, because we're never walking in a straight line.
No.
We're always, meandering along the path. Hopefully we have a destination in mind based on
that's also important. Yeah.
how we want to envision our lives going. And that's, it's a big part of getting anywhere, is knowing where you want to go. But you don't just arrive there. There's a journey that you have to take. And it's helpful if you have somebody who has the tools to help you navigate that.
Yeah.
Which is
absolutely. And the vision part too, Jill. So that's also really important, because what I find, and I mean, I've been guilty of this in the past as I've been throughout my own transformation, is that we get shiny object syndrome. Oh, that looks good. Now I want that. Well, that looks good over there. Now I want that. And so we're just constant. We never actually arrive anywhere because we never actually know what we want. And so if you don't know who you are and you don't have a way of navigating that, we're always going to see new things. And I mean, I don't know about you. Well, I do, because you've told me. we know how old we are. But when we grew up, we didn't have as much in our space to push us off course. We didn't see as much as we can see now. And we did, and I still did it then. So even more so now, we need to be really, really clear on where it is we're going, because otherwise we're going to constantly be presented with things, marketed things, be seeing other people achieve things and wanting to go after something that may or may not be in alignment with what it is that we actually want. And so what I tend to help people do is really focus on how they want to feel. Because if you, and again, it comes back to that alignment. It's like, well, what does success feel like to you? What does a successful relationship feel like to you? Because you could say it looks like this, and then you can go after that. And then when you get there, it doesn't feel good. It's like, well, if you know what you want to feel, you're going to know when you get there, because your body is going to tell you before your mind is aware of it. And you're going to be able to actually keep, and that's another part of using that compass, right? So it's about trusting yourself and listening to your body and listening to your heart, and really making sure that what you're going after, what it's going to feel like when you get there, so that when you've arrived. You really know when you've arrived, because it may not look exactly how you expect, because all these other things are going to happen along the way to make it look a little bit different. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And Joe Dispenza talks about that a little bit in his meditation process, and that's feeling what you're going to feel like when you have arrived. Practice that feeling. And it's all about feeling. And it's not knowing, it's feeling in your body versus knowing in your head. And then you do know when you've arrived, and you'll always be developing another thing that's in the future, because that's just part of who we are as human beings. Absolutely. But the feelings, you'll start to inculcate those feelings into your body. Your body will just recognize that as normal as you're envisioning it. And then it'll keep changing and you keep growing. But it's how we can progress and know we're progressing, and we're actually doing something to make that happen. But it's not hard work. It's a matter of using our imaginations. And, for so long we've been told, oh, don't daydream. Well, Daydreaming is where it all begins. Sitting
Yeah.
in meditation and just pretend for a minute that you have arrived. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What's
Yeah.
happening around you? And
Yeah.
the more real you can get in your head, in your imagination, and the more you can put yourself in that spot, so you're actually like smelling the smells and hearing
Yeah.
the sounds, the more likely you are to actually get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of science behind that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where I see a lot of the other things that we have access to, like he's amazing, where I see a lot of those things got to tap onto what I'm saying. And so you may have done some of this work already with other coaches or in other spaces, or read a book or listened to a podcast or whatever it is. It all goes together. It all fits together like this beautiful puzzle. The one important piece that I think people miss when they're going through their self-development journey or personal development is going in. You've got to start there. You've got to know how you connect to those things. Like those are the things that connect on to what I'm talking about, because otherwise, again, you're just going to be reaching for this. I'll try this. I'll try this. I'll try this. I'll try this. Okay, but we need to align it, all of those things, all of those amazing modalities, all those amazing ways of coming into your own with what's true. And so I feel like that's where I kind of really want people to have the courage to go there. Like, it's not easy. It's intense. It's, there's an unpacking that occurs, but there's a repacking that is the result of, okay, these are the things I'm going to take with me forward. And then I'm going to go and approach all of those other things with this in mind. And from this, with this filter, with no filter, more importantly.
And if you can present it to people in a way that it's more step by step, like when I talk about these things, I'm like all over the place. There's all these modalities and there's all these ways that you can get to the destination that you're going to. But unless you have somebody that says, first, we're going to do this, and walks you systematically through the process of uncovering who you are, it just makes the journey so much quicker. And the results, you get the results really fast. I mean, you could spend 10 or 15 years wandering around, listening to all these different people out there. And there are a lot of amazing people out there.
Correct.
But why? You could be there so much faster if you just, found somebody like Megan who already knows the directions.
Well, I've been there, right? I've been on the journey, and I've seen it work for many other, like hundreds of people, like I said, within the organizations I've worked in. And I think we can have too much information. And that's kind of where I was going before. It's like there's all these amazing books, and they're all amazing. And there's all these amazing people. There's all this amazing free information that we have access to. And it's amazing. It's like, oh, if I could have had some of that when I was, younger, if I knew what I knew now, if I had access to I'm excited for the next generation, because they already have it. They're coming, like my oldest one's turning 21 in October, and most of our kids we've got 7 between us. Most of them are over 15. And I'm excited that they have access to this stuff, but I'm also aware of the fact that there's so much that they could end up getting nowhere, because you don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel it's really, really important for us to just strip it back and go, okay, let's just focus on one thing
Main
first.
things.
Yeah. Because then if you know who you are and you know what's important, and then you go out and take all that information in, you're going to be able to navigate that information and take on what is applicable to you and implement it in a way that's actually going to get you results, because otherwise it's just more information. Knowledge isn't power, action is. It's what you do with that knowledge. And if you don't know what to do with it, you probably won't do anything.
The word to learn actually means to cause change.
Mm.
And if you learn something and you're not changing, then you really haven't learned it. You have been programmed, indoctrinated, propagandized, but you haven't learned unless you're changing.
Yeah. And no one has to do it alone. There's all these amazing coaches out there, and whether it's me that you resonate or somebody else that you've heard that's heard a similar conversation around, it's about finding that person that's right for you to take you, because it's a very personal journey and it's so worth it. It's so worth it. If I can kind of give you the end of my story or the now of my story, like I have completely done a 180. I'm now with the most amazing man who has met me and fallen in love with me, who I actually am. I don't have to pretend to be anything else because he loves every little quirk and, everything about me. Which we all have those things. And he's the same with me, because what happens when you show up like that is you give the people in front of you permission to do the same. So when we met, there was like no holds barred. Like, this is who I am. I've been told I'm too much many times. I'm totally okay with being too much. And you're either going to like that and fall in love with that, or we're not going to do this. And he was exactly the same with me. And he's done a lot of his own work in various ways. And so that's exciting. That's a very exciting part of my life now. And my children are older and they're all moving through life and doing what they want to do. And his kids, coming up as well. And I think that now it's super important to be the example to them of what it looks like to live a life where you're lit up and you're excited and you're achieving things that are actually making you happier, instead of doing a crappy job that you have to do just to survive. I mean, we have an abundance of everything.
That matters.
Yeah, we have an abundance of everything we need. We just have to be able to be brave enough to go after it. And so that's really great. And, my health is better than it's been because I understand what my body needs. And, list could go on, but it feeds into every other area of your life. And so that's why I think it's super important that people step up to the plate, be brave to go on that journey, and don't have to do it by yourself. With someone that's been there and done it, and I'm not finished. I'll never be finished, but I'm certainly ahead of the people that I want to work with, and I can help, and I can still empathize with them because it's not too long ago. It's only 5 years ago, or over the last few years. So yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I'm excited for the people that get to hear this episode and hear your other shows that you've done. I think it's important to put coaches on a platform like this so that people can find their person, right? It's like finding your person in life. You've got to find your person that's going to be the one that gets you to the other side of this.
I've met so many interesting coaches out there, and I really believe that they're making a difference in how the world actually operates. And that lights me up, just being able to showcase you guys and what you're doing, because it really is making a big difference. And there's 9 billion people. If you help a handful, the next person helps a handful, the next person helps a handful, the world does change, because that couple of people that you're helping, their family gets changed because of the dynamics of that central person changing. Like, your kids are never going to be the same because you've done all this work for yourself. It's just how it's going to be. And their families will grow up stronger and better, and they'll contribute meaningfully to the world instead of just pushing paper around, like was the paradigm for the last probably 100 years. Before that, there was a different paradigm. But it's really moving. So what's the one thing? Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, and that's a really important thing, what you just said there, because I can't serve everybody, and neither can the next person, but I can serve the people that resonate with me and understand where I'm coming from. And it does, and whatever they go on to do, whatever contribution they decide to make to the world, doesn't have to be anything other than making their own family better, different, change, like breaking the pattern that is in their family that needs to be broken, if there's one at all. And so, that, the ripple effect of that is very, very exciting. I have 100% agree with that.
Yeah, it's just like that just lights me up in so many ways.
Yeah.
Why I do what I do. Yeah. So what's the one thing you'd like to leave the audience with today?
The one thing, there's so many. If I was to sum it up with one thing, is be brave enough to get out of your own way. And I think the first time that I heard that was from the amazing late Wayne Dyer, who I was a big fan of his work when I was in my 30s. Because we have that little whisper in our ear that says, we want more, or something's not quite there, or, or we find ourselves in this space and this transition where we need to figure out what that is. And I just want people to realize that the only person in the way of them doing that is themselves. And it doesn't have to be scary, but it is going to be a journey. And just want people to be brave enough to just take that one first step. And that could just be to reach out to, someone that has inspired them in any, something that's resonated with you. Just be brave enough to just take the first step.
Go take the quiz.
Yeah, take the quiz.
Surprised.
And it's actually quite fun. It's kind of fun.
And it's not really long. It was surprisingly short to me and accurate. We're
busy, right? We're all busy people. So, and there's lots of things we could be applying our time to. So let's get to the point straight away was why I kept it short.
and the answers, the page that you go to when you fill it out, it's like actually gives you helpful information and allows you to take the next step. And, one of it may be calling you or working with you, but it doesn't have to be. It's like there's a lot of information there if you do nothing else with it. Totally. So
and if they do feel called, like at the end there, that you can jump on a call like this. We don't have to record it and put it out into the world, but we can certainly have a conversation and just get to know each other and just see if I am your person that is your navigator through this journey, that rediscovering yourself.
Yeah, and we'll put those links in the show notes, and be sure to check out Megan's podcast, Free to Be You. It's on all the things, I'm sure.
It is. Yep. Freed with a D. Freed to be you.
Freed with a D. Yes. Sorry, I didn't put the D on my notes.
No, the D's important. The D's important.
It is, because you don't go to the right website.
Well, that too. But I mean, the D, people have told me that's grammatically incorrect. But the thing with the D is the reason it's freed is because it is on the other side of taking that step where we find that freedom to be ourselves. So yes, we are free to do it, but we're freed from the past, freed from the versions of us that are no longer us once we do. And once we step onto that journey of rediscovery, it's quite addictive. You don't really want to go back to where you were before. So that's where the D comes into it. So yeah, just to be.
I like it. And I'm actually really glad that you gave us that explanation, because it makes total sense in terms of why you would have it in there.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me, Megan. This has been great.
Thank you for having me, Jill. It's been awesome. And keep doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing and it's really, really important.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the U World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.